in time. And then we're going to talk about Colombia, because holy smokeronis, Colombia got a lesson in FAFO yesterday, and Donald Trump was the instructor, and it took 6 minutes for them to capitulate. Trump said, fine, we'll take nothing from Colombia and cancel all their visas. And Rubio sent the statement, and they were like, oh. Anyway, I've got that for you as well. Dr. Phil is out there with Homan deporting migrants. He's interviewing them. He's like, your mom's a citizen, but you're not a citizen. He's like, that's right. And the whole thing is really, really interesting. So there's a whole lot of things to get to. Let's get to it first. We're going to be starting in Canada and with the election. And Christie says, once a prime minister or president announces their plan to resign, they should no longer be able to hurt the country that they are leading any further. No action should be able to take place until after an election is held. Election in Canada now. Trudeau's in Poland right now doing some international event. What is it? Holocaust Remembrance Day or whatever. So the whole thing is all, dog and pony show. Everybody's doing pomp and circumstance and blah, blah, blah. And I don't think Trudeau should be representing us. I really agree with that. I don't think that he should be representing us for any event on the world stage, period, full stop. I understand that he's the prime minister still because he didn't step down and we all kind of quieted down about the whole thing. But there should be some kind of protocol in place that when a prime minister says he's going to resign, they should be waltzed out the door. Like when O'Toole resigned, they immediately had an interim leader appointed to govern the party during the interim of the leadership race. Trudeau should not have kept control of the Liberal Party for the leadership race. It's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. Joe says, anyone who won't do the following is not fit to run Canada. 1, mass deportations. 2, deport terrorists. 3, stop mass immigration. 4, those are all the same thing, by the way. Different version or different sides of the same tetrasphere, whatever it is. Stop the mass invasion, stop the carbon tax. 5, withdraw from the WHO. 6, withdraw from the Paris Accord. 7, no ties to the WEF. 8, end woke culture. 9, secure our borders. That's 1, 2, and 3 as well. 10, strengthen our military. The other thing is 11, withdraw from the United Nations. There are a whole other bevy of kind of second tier international commitments that we should remove ourselves from that have no place in Canada whatsoever, and they don't help us. They don't help Canadian citizens. They don't help us produce anything. They don't help us be productive. They don't help us with anything. So there's no reason for it. Back to this. Also, getting into a trade war with one of our best allies isn't the right thing to do. Securing the border is beneficial for both Canadians and Americans. We are stronger together. If you don't do the job, get out of the way. Yes, absolutely, 100%. Kevin is asking about this political video channel, and this is an international thing, and I guess that they have an IP address in China, according to Andy Lee. But Kevin says this media site claiming to be from New York State has a Chinese IP address. Oh, it's Kevin who says it's Chinese. But Politics Video Channel says, breaking, Justin Trudeau's party in Canada has gained support after Trump attacks and could win the next election. Nope, I don't think so. That's not in the tea leaves that I'm looking at right now. There's very, very thin path to Liberals being elected, and I don't think it's realistic. I think that you could hear some Liberals talking about a path to re-election, but I would dismiss it as completely unrealistic and more out of touch than usual for the Liberals, which is saying a lot, right? So yeah, no, I don't think that this is true, but it's being put out there by the Chinese, right? So they don't want to lose their asset in Canada. People are even asking Justin Trudeau to retract his resignation. That's interesting. Do you think he could do that? And if he did that, what would be the consequences of that? Yikes. Brian Lilly says, all those Liberals getting angry at Conservatives encouraging people to sign up and vote, calling it election fraud, should perhaps be raising with their party how easy it is to sign up. This is a vote to pick the next Prime Minister of Canada, and it's a hot mess. So you can go to the liberal.ca website, and there's a register now thing. I went there to see what the process was like, and I tried to register with an email address just to see what they'd send me, if they sent me anything, and like what the process was, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm waiting for the email now to confirm and log in and vote. I haven't been able to do any of that. So yeah, and I wanted to see what kind of rigor. So there was nothing that said I had to use my real name or anything like that. So I used a fake name and a fake email address that I control. And I was like, I'm just interested in seeing what this whole thing is. And if I could vote with a fake email address and a fake name. And like, if you can, that seems like a bad idea, right? I wonder if you can do... the next thing that I'm going to try is I'm going to try and vote for the leadership race from a foreign country using a VPN. So we'll see. And I'll let you know how it goes. Maybe I should write a little news article about that. Other people tend to do that, right? So maybe I'll record it. But it seems really, really open, and a lot of Canadians aren't engaged with this. This is the next prime minister of the country. Nobody cares. And also, yesterday, Chandra Arya was excluded. Polling Canada says they kicked Arya out of the Liberal leadership race, LMAO. So he finds that funny. Isn't that weird? Because he had a lot of grassroots support because a whole bunch of people wanted to basically troll. Like, it's the Bodie McBoatface effect, right? Like, let's name this the most ridiculous thing we can. So, and I mean, some people said, I actually like his policies. His economic policies seem good, and it's better than liberals right now, and so on and so forth. I don't know. I didn't look into it too much because I just don't care. I honestly don't care. I hope the Liberal Party ends up with less than one seat. I don't even understand why anybody's paying any attention to this at all. Sweep these idiots out. They're obviously traitors. Like, obviously we need to find out who the 11 traitors in our government are and who was turning a blind eye, Justin Trudeau. Anyway, so they're sweeping this guy out, and the reasons that they're giving are very thin. Here's CBC Watcher. He says, Liberal Party spokesperson Parker Lund confirmed Arya would not be a candidate, citing a section of the national leadership rules that state a prospective candidate can be disqualified if they're found to be manifestly unfit for the office of leader. Have you seen Mark Carney's teeth? That could be due to public statements, past improper conduct, a lack of commitment to democracy, or other reputational or legal jeopardy, the rules say. Lund did not say which specifically led to Arya being removed from the race. So there you go. So Arya's out. Here is Ruby Dhalla, and she is a former MP before the Liberal Party went all communist, and now she's coming back into politics. She's very well spoken, but here's 19 seconds, and then I've got another video to show. What do you think? I think that, again, I don't care because I think the Liberals should be completely removed from power, and two, I don't trust any of them. Period. And further, I don't trust any of our parliamentarians at this point, nor do I trust most of the mayors, nor do I trust most of the premiers, and that includes Danielle Smith, unfortunately, nor do I trust anybody in any level of government or school board or trustee position at this point. I think all our elections are rigged. And you may say, well, how can you do that? I don't trust police. I don't trust courts. Look at the Coots guys. Look at what the police did. Look what the RCMP did. Look what the RCMP did in Nova Scotia. Look what the RCMP did with Brenda Lucki for years. Right? I don't know how you can trust any of these things. I don't trust Facebook, right? I don't trust these people. I think it would be better to get rid of everybody who had anything to do with politics and have 338 or 342, whatever it is, the number now, random people selected, and you'd get a better outcome with that than we're going to get with this nonsense. And even Pierre Poilievre and him, axe the tax, slogan. We're not going to get a good outcome. We are about to get slapped. It's not going to be comfortable, right? Here's Dhalla.
I'm running
Dhalla.
to lead the Liberal
Party. Oh, it's too fast. I'm sorry. Here we go. It's much better when the cues work properly.
I am running to lead the Liberal Party and become Canada's next Prime Minister. The Liberal Party is broken. We must clean up the system. The people that broke the system certainly cannot fix it. The time for change is now. I am running.
Right, meow. Right? Oh, gosh. So here is a longer video. There's a couple of things she said I like. See if you can guess where she loses me. Here we go.
Namaste and sasrikal, bonjour.
Oh, right. I forgot about the greetings. This made me think of Tony Horton. Namaste. Namaste? Can't you just say hi, eh? Why? Why do we have to pander to everybody all the time? Why do we have to do this? Hello, bonjour, good morning, whatever. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. Can't you just speak to people like normal people speak?
Namaste and sasrikal, bonjour. This is Ruby Dhalla. As you know, I am running for the leadership for the Liberal Party and the next Prime Minister of Canada. This message is for all of the supporters of Mr. Arya. He was running as well as a fellow candidate, and we just heard very shortly before that he will not be running, as he has not been approved by the Liberal Party. I am sure that many of his supporters across the country are very disappointed. I know that they have been working very hard, signing up members all across our great country. And to all of the supporters, I say to you that in me, you have a very strong voice, a voice that is ready to fight for you, that is ready to stand up for you, and a voice that is going to ensure that your issues are brought to the forefront. The time is very short. If you have not signed up, we have until tomorrow, January the 27th. And if you have signed up, please connect with us, because we need your vote and your support to elect and to make history for the very first time and have the first Canadian Prime Minister from the South Asian and Indo-Canadian community. Let's work together to make history and to make this happen.
Like, who cares? Here, work with me, fellow Canadians, to elect the first prime minister that can wiggle his ears. You know, like, who the hell cares? Oh, the first East Asian, the first Greek prime minister who could wiggle his ears, Greek British. Like, come on. I don't care. I don't give a rat's ass. You know what I want? I want you to send a plane full of Colombian illegals to Colombia, and I want you to stare down their president when he says no. That's what I want. I don't give a crap about where you come from, other than, are you Canadian? And if you're not Canadian, bye. I don't want you to be the leader. I don't want you to be the prime minister. I don't want you to be anything close to leadership. So this whole thing is just, I want to pander. I want to water things down. I don't want to talk about the things that matter. I want to talk about my skin color or what's between my legs or what community I represent, which is absolute nonsense. It has nothing to do with fixing any of the problems that are inherent in our country right now. Anti-Taxer says, how many people signed up for Liberal memberships to vote for Chandra Arya? Now they can give all of those votes to Carney and everything will look on the up and up when they count the official tally. The race is rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged. I can't convince myself that it's not, after watching leadership race after leadership race after leadership race be rigged, right? With Dominion machines, ripped ballots, delays in counting, and all sorts of other stuff. Maxime Bernier losing Conservative leadership narrowly to Andrew Scheer after almost winning it outright in the 12th round. The whole thing is rigged. It's rigged. And I can't, again, just like I don't trust the courts, I don't trust the courts or the leadership of the country or the school boards or the trustees of the school boards and everybody in between. So, like, how do you function, right? Like, it's pretty wild. Here's Pierre Poilievre, and he says, breaking carbon. Let's talk about more leadership, but this is Freeland Carney, because it looks like they're the front runners and it looks like Carney's won it now, which is weird because we're supposed to go until March. Anyway, Pierre Poilievre says, carbon tax, Carney confirms who will put Trudeau's ministers in his cabinet, so nothing changes. He's just like Justin. And yeah, I think that's well known. Pierre Poilievre says, I wrote this tweet almost 4 years ago, and to explain why carbon tax Carney had decided not to run for the MP in the last election. Pierre Poilievre says, why Carney is not running. If Trudeau wins the election, he will cause a financial meltdown. Even though Carney has endorsed the mad Liberal policies leading to the crisis, he'll try to blame them on leadership rival Freeland. Yeah, so he's going to say it's Freeland that made this mess, and I'm an economist, so I'll be able to fix it. And no, he won't. The OG Rebel says, what were your thoughts in 2008, Pierre Poilievre, when your mentor appointed carbon tax Carney to be the governor of the Bank of Canada? So Stephen Harper appointed Carney to be the governor of the Bank of Canada. And, well, you know, Mr. Poilievre was involved in that government. He was a minister in that government. Although at this point in time, like in 2008, you wouldn't know necessarily how communist and crazy the whole thing would be. Although if you know finances and stuff, you could get an indication of the direction people were going. Carney represented globalists in 2008 just as much as he represented globalists now. But in 2008, the WEF had members of the Conservative Party, Maxime Bernier, sent by Stephen Harper to represent to treat at the WEF. I've also heard that Carney's at the WEF. So I saw a picture, but it looked like AI, and I thought, I don't know if that's real or not. And so I was looking to see if more evidence of him being at the WEF popped up. But again, I was at a hockey tournament all weekend, as you can tell by my beard. It's a tournament beard, right? It was 3 days. Regardless, in 2008, you may not know. I don't know if you'd be forgiven. I think I didn't know. I really didn't know much about what was going on until post-Trump, right? Post-2015. end of 2015, early 2016, and then Pizzagate happened, and then the whole floodgates blew open. So in 2008 to 2013, with Carney as the governor of the Bank of Canada, in 2008, where were you? Right? Would that raise red flags to you? A WEF banker as the governor of the Bank of Canada? I don't know that it would. I don't know that people would be on alert, and people who were on alert back then for that kind of thing weren't taken seriously. I don't think. Right? So to be honest with you, right? So it's one of those things where we can look at it and Monday morning quarterback it and say, oh, I would have done so much better, right? I would have known. But the reality is probably not, right? So I don't know. Here's Pierre Poilievre again. This is Mark Carney. You're just like Justin Trudeau. Will you ban his ministers? And Natasha Montreal, I think, nails it really for Poilievre, where Trump has really strong rhetoric talking about really, really impactful things like Trump, and by extension, in this instance, Trump does it well, but a good politician intakes the feedback from the public and then regurgitates that to them. They want to hear about what are our problems, so then they understand that the politician has a good understanding of the problems and then solutions, right? So the politician says, here are your problems as I understand them, and here's what I'm going to do about them. That's why Trump has interesting rallies and people like to go to them, right? Because he's talking about things that matter in a way that is bite-sized and understandable to people, right? And so Poilievre is trying to rely on using like personal attacks and it doesn't seem like he's talking about the problems that are inherent with Canada. It seems like he's running an election style attack ad thing against Carney and ignoring the broader problems of like all the Liberal failures. There's so much to hit him on. Like I haven't even seen, has Poilievre asked Carney about the Maxwell pictures? That should be front and center. Is that a pinned tweet anywhere on any of his ministers' things? They're not talking about that very much. Greg did a good job the other day talking about how it seems like they're pulling punches. It's like watching Mike Tyson fight Jake Paul, right? Like I'm pretty sure Mike Tyson could have punched his head off. I think Jake Paul's head is still attached to his body just by the good graces of Mike Tyson. And apparently he was biting his glove to remind himself not to punch his head off, right? Punch the other guy's head off. And so like it's a rigged fight, and it looks just like that here. It's rigged. Like the stuff that they're throwing at Carney isn't strong when there is really strong criticism to throw his way. Why not? Right? And like, you have to wonder, and like the Maxwell stuff should be completely disqualifying. Like, and you can use the stuff that's happening right now. Trump's in a battle with the United Kingdom about the ambassador and the ambassador's ties to Epstein. I think it's the ambassador. There was two names, and I'm not sure exactly which one's which, but the Trump administration is pushing back because somebody the UK wants to insert is like on their side, and they can insert them, but Trump's saying, no, I don't want them. And because they have ties to Epstein. And so like, why isn't that front and center? Why isn't that a huge problem? Why isn't that the first question? How can this person be in the running for this when they have ties to an international sex trafficking madam? Where's that tweet, Pierre Poilievre? Honestly, like, what is wrong? What is wrong with your team when you're doing these half measures and like, not even a full roundhouse punch? You know, it's ridiculous. Natasha Montreal says, instead of posting 10 times a day to say the same thing about Mark Carney, why don't you use your massive platform to put forth a vision for our country? So far, your platform is Canada will remain in the United Nations. Canada will remain in the WHO. Canada will remain beholden to the Paris Accord and the United Nations Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Canada will perpetuate official multiculturalism and mass immigration, but good mass immigration. Transanity will still be enshrined in Canadian law. We will bring it home. You will axe the tax, but keep all of the other climate change hoax taxes. You put on costumes and celebrate holidays which have nothing to do with Canadian culture. So how do you differ from Carney? Are you selling 2014 liberalism instead of 2025 liberalism? What's your vision for Canada? What will you do to restore Canada? Great questions. And like, Poilievre's missing it, in my opinion. He's putting on a weak show at this point in time. And weak because weak may not look so weak if we didn't have the comparison of Trump, right? If Trump didn't just like put Colombia over his knee and spank the shit out of them, and then Colombia says, yes, sir, sorry, sir, you're right, sir. If we didn't have that example, maybe Poilievre wouldn't look so weak, but he looks weak. He looks very weak. So at this point, I think anybody coming out with strong rhetoric would do a good job and make waves. And and not to say like they've neutered the People's Party. They've neutered Berniers entire ability to be able to grow an audience, kind of like me, actually. If you look at Greg's got a show coming out, or he's doing a show. I don't know if he's doing it 5 days a week yet, but he's doing a show kind of like mine. And he's like his show yesterday had like 3,500 viewers, like 3,500 viewers. I don't know if it's the difference between streaming or whatever, but it was a recorded show that I watched. It was just like mine. Like, it was an uploaded recorded show that he had uploaded, and it had 3,500 viewers or views. It was the 25th, and I think it was the 25th that it was uploaded, and I was looking at it last night. I caught it on my feed last night. And so I thought, wow, like that's pretty wild, right? So like when Greg and I met, I think I had more followers than him. I had a YouTube channel with lots of people following me at that point in time. And my ex had more followers my Twitter had more followers than his Twitter. And now he's got like 30,000 followers on Twitter. Now he does different things than I do, but it's interesting to notice. Anyway, good for him, by the way. And he does a good breakdown, but it's just interesting. Gov.exe is highlighting this. He says, watching these leftists who've been whining about income equality and rising prices for years not only come to the defense of a central banker, but are willing to vote for him for the prime minister is truly mind-boggling. You'll own nothing and be happy. Thomas Jefferson on central bankers. So this is the Jefferson quote. I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of currency, first by inflation and then by deflation, the banks and corporations will grow up around the banks, will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. We're there right now. We're there right now. Michael Barrett says, carbon tax Carney is pretending to have new ideas and policies. Don't be fooled. He's just like Justin. Seems weak. Did they yellow Justin Trudeau's teeth in this picture? My teeth whiter than Justin Trudeau's teeth in this picture, and I think my teeth and Trudeau's teeth are about the same timber. Weird, right? And Carney's got his mouth closed because you wouldn't be able to, you can't really, other than the darkened teeth in the front that he's got. Oh my gosh. Anyway, here's Alexandra Lavoie. She was in wherever Mark Carney is, and she's talking to him, asking him some questions, and she gets pushed around a bit by Carney, etc. He's talking French, but it's very basic French, so you should understand it. Here we go.
Mr. Carney, sorry. Mr. Carney, why are you lying to Canadians saying that you're an outsider when you're the ultimate insider? Why are you lying to Canadians?
Je ne suis jamais une députée, madame.
You are the special
I've never been a member of parliament in French, he says.
advisor to Trudeau.
Pourquoi tu parles anglais à Shawinigan?
Because we are an English news outlet.
He says, why are you speaking English?
And you know it. But why are you lying to Canadians saying that you're an outsider? When you return
He says, it's nice here and wherever there.
as a prime minister, are you going to cut ties with the World Economic Forum?
J'en ai pas.
He doesn't have any ties to the World Economic Forum, he says.
You have been invited multiple times. Mr. Carney, don't touch me. Mr. Carney, what are your thoughts on the fact that Arya was removed from the race?
C'est bon ça.
What do you think about that? Are you going to ask Alberta to stop selling oil to the United States to fight against the trade war? If you become the prime minister, are you going to do that?
So he doesn't address her question, and he says, we're going to win. And then somebody assaults her, and she gets kind of pissed off at the end here.
Mr. Carney, why are you literally lied to Canadians saying that you're an outsider? Can you stop?
No.
Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
Je marche pour entrer.
No, you don't have to stop me.
Je marche
You don't
pour
have to
entrer.
stop me.
Je marche pour entrer.
Right? So those tactics are used regularly to stop reporters from having access to people
the spine to stand up for Canada.
who don't want to be interviewed, right? So very interesting. Here's Chrystia Freeland. And Dan McTeague says the medium is the message. This is Rosemary Barton. And Chrystia Freeland. The reason I want to show this to you, and I'm only going to show you the last 10 seconds because I just don't care about Chrystia Freeland and what she has to say. She's saying that we can win and we can fight and we can be united in Canada. She says that obviously, maybe I'll do the last 30 seconds or last 20 seconds. She says that Mark Carney is the obvious choice by the PMO, and Mark Carney looks like he's going to be inserted as the next prime minister. And Rosemary Barton fact checks that live and says she's got no reason to say that. I don't know what she's talking about there, says Rosemary Barton, which I thought was funny and I wanted to highlight. So here's Freeland and Rosemary Barton.
Is the choice of the Liberal establishment. It is certainly looking like he is the PMO's candidate.
Freeland was not able to offer any evidence that allowed her to make that assertion.
So did you guys watch this whole Mark Carney thing where everybody and their dog is, for Mark Carney, and even Pierre Poilievre is he's pulling his punches to let Mark Carney get in there, right? And then win the next election against Mark Carney? There isn't going to be a next election. They're going to kick it to 2026 once Mark Carney is the prime minister. He's going to say, well, people need to get to know me, and so I should keep control of the government for another year or so. And continue allowing this trade war to wreak havoc on Canadian everything. Donald Trump, Canadian companies will move to the United States. Like that, what will happen is not Canadian companies will languish waiting for Canada to get its head on straight. No, Canadian companies will pick up, get an address in the United States, and then move their production to the United States to avoid the 25% tariffs. That removes Canadian jobs and increases American jobs and saves the company. Without doing that, the company goes under. You understand? And so that's what's going to happen if Carney doesn't respond to the trade war. And as that happens, you just kind of empty out Canada. Trump is encouraging immigration from, he wants people to come in and do the work that needs to get done, right? He says, we're going to need lots of people. And so people don't like that. And yeah, because he's promising deportations and he's doing mass deportations, but at the same time, he's opening up their immigration practices. And so if you've got a business to bring, he wants you to come to the United States and bring your business with you, right? And so that's a strategy, and it's going to empty out. It's going to remove the people who have that as an option, and it's going to trap some people here. But a lot of people who have the option are just going to go to the United States. So Canada is going to encourage people. It's like what they're doing to doctors and nurses. We'll train you, and then please go to the United States because we can't compete with their tax system and stuff. It's insane. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, you want to hear about Colombia? I want to tell you about Colombia. Here's Donald Trump learning at 10:28 a.m. that Colombia has said no to one of the flights full of criminals. So Donald Trump says on Truth Social, I was just informed that 2 repatriation flights from the United States with a large number of illegal criminals was not allowed to land in Colombia. The order was given by Colombia's socialist president, Gustavo Petro, who is already very unpopular amongst his people. Petro's denial of these flights has jeopardized the national security and public safety of the United States, so I've directed my administration to immediately take the following urgent and decisive retaliatory measures. Emergency 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States. In 1 week, the 25% tariffs will be raised to 50%. A travel ban and immediate visa revocations on the Colombian government officials and all allies and supporters. Visa sanctions on all party members, family members, and supporters of the Colombian government. Holy smoke. Supporters? Can you imagine? You're a card-carrying supporter of the government, and then Trump's like, you're done, buddy. Sanctions on you too. Enhanced customs and border protection inspections of all Colombian national and cargo on national security grounds. IEEPA, treasury, banking, and financial sanctions to be fully imposed. These measures are just the beginning. We will not allow the Colombian government to violate its legal obligations with regard to the acceptance and return of the criminals they forced into the United States. They're going back, and you don't have the leverage to stop me, is what he just said. He pulled the president over his lap and spanked him, okay, over and over again. And then he went to social media and posted this. Clandestine says, Trump's on a rampage. Immediately after Petro caved to Trump's demands, and I'll show you that in just a second, Trump drops an FAFO AI meme and is dressed like a mobster. First he wins, then he trolls about it online. Mean tweets are officially all the way back. So here's Marco Rubio. America will not back down when it comes to defending our national security interests. Secretary Rubio's authorizes visa restrictions on Colombian government officials. So no, the answer is no. Here is Amuse. And he says, Colombia is sending its presidential plane, a Boeing 737-700 seating up to 50 passengers, to pick up its citizens who were caught here in the United States illegally. The move comes 6 minutes after Trump announced crippling sanctions on the country for refusing earlier flights. You better take them, and you'll take them at your expense, and you'll take them now. Bill says the White House announced that Colombia has agreed to all of President Trump's terms, including unrestricted acceptance of all illegal aliens from Colombia. As a result, Trump's tariffs and sanctions will remain held in reserve, unsigned, unless Colombia doesn't honor the agreement. The visa sanctions are enhanced CBP screenings will remain in effect until the first plane load of Colombian illegal aliens is successfully returned. So, right? Like, the answer is you will do what I tell you to do, says Trump. Here's Bill, and he's a reporter who knows about this stuff, national correspondent for Fox News. And he says the White House, that he was the first person people were retweeting about this whole thing being resolved. Because I saw that it was on the way to being resolved. Trump was like, no, you're not going to do any of this. And then this guy was the one being kind of with the scoop. Where are we? As a result, Trump's tariffs and sanctions will remain held in reserve. The visa sanctions and enhanced. Okay, I already read that. It continues. The Colombian president retweeted the press secretary's post about this. Certainly indicates he endorses what the Trump administration is saying about the deal. Hard to see this as anything but a full capitulation by Colombian president after he picked a fight with Trump today. And Bill says, now it looks like he undid the repost, but screenshots are forever. And Bill says, it's official. Colombia confirms a deal has been reached with the United States and announces their foreign ministers will be traveling to D.C. in the coming hours. We're real sorry, Mr. Trump. Very, very sorry. Everything's going back to normal. Please, Mr. Trump, we're real sorry. Food professor says, shortest trade war in history. Within 18 hours, the United States imposed a tariff on Colombia for refusing to accept deportees. In response, Colombia retaliated. Now, Washington lifted all tariffs after Colombia agreed to all of President Trump's conditions. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Apologies for making you spank us a lot. Here is cynical Publis, and he says, to fully understand just how remarkable today's exchange with Colombia was, you need to understand how Washington, D.C. has traditionally worked through these sorts of issues and the different way Trump is working now. I'll illustrate. The traditional approach. 1, Colombia announces it will not take our repatriation flights. 2, on Monday, the State Department convenes an intelligence interagency task force with the Department of Defense, NSC, DEA, INS, ICE, Commerce, Treasury, and Homeland Security. The task force meets for 4 days and develops a position paper. The position paper is rejected by the Secretary of State, who is unhappy that insufficient equity considerations are built into the process. The task force reconvenes a week later to redevelop 3 new equity-centric courses of action and create a new position paper. The process is delayed a week because Washington, D.C. gets 3 inches of snow. Secretary of State approves the new position paper for interagency circulation, and considerable input is received from the heads of other departments, so the task force must reconvene. The original 3 proposed response courses of action are scrapped in favor of a new 4th course of action that achieves the worst aspects of the 3 prior courses of action, but satisfies the interagency. Someone in State Department who disagrees leaks to the Washington Post, who writes a story about how ineffective the presidential administration is. The White House Chief of Staff sets up a session 3 days later to brief the president, who approves the new 4th course of action. Over a month after the issue is first raised, the State Department Public Affairs Officer holds a press conference announcing that Colombia has agreed to send fewer criminals to the United States, and everyone declares victory. Yay! In contrast, the Trump approach. 1, Colombia announces it will not take repatriation flights. 2, after a par 5 third hole where he goes 1 under par, Trump uses his iPhone to post on social media as to how the USA will destroy Colombia's economy if they do not do what the USA demands. 3, by the time Trump gets to the par 4 6th hole, Colombia's president has agreed to repatriate all illegal Colombians in his own plane, which he will pay for. Trump finishes 3 under par and goes to the clubhouse for a Diet Coke, where he posts a gangster AI image of himself and the new FAFO doctrine. 5, winning. See the difference? It's called leadership. Well, this is somebody, I used to work in children's mental health, and there were kids who were difficult to deal with, right? And so Trump represents somebody. And so sometimes when you're working with somebody and you're dealing with difficult to deal with kids, you can set the kids up. You can say oh, we're going to get ice cream later. And then later comes and the kids are like, oh, can we have ice cream? And you're like, oh, you know what? No, we're not going to have ice cream. So now you've set them up. Now you've done something that's created a bad situation. And so there are people, and further, if a child is acting up, sometimes people only have one thing they'll do. If you keep this up, you're grounded, right? And it's 1, what they're doing it's not grounding them is not going to fix it. 2, don't you have something smaller? Couldn't you do something little to get them to do what you want? Stop throwing that thing. It could go through the window. And then if you don't stop throwing that thing, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. We're going to turn off the TV. We're going to go up to our room. We're going to do something else. You're grounded? Like, how long are you grounded? What are you talking about? So like, I was very good at the job. And I was really good at small increases in punishment, or punishment's not the right word, but consequences, right? If you don't do what I say, I'm going to do this, and your life is going to suck, and everybody else is going to have fun, and you're going to be left out, and that's going to suck. And I don't want that, and you don't want that. So let's do this, and everybody wins this way, right? So I was good at that, and it sucks when you work with somebody who's not good at that. And Trump is somebody who understands the ability to use leverage to their advantage, right? I was working with kids. I held all the cards. I could shut down everything. I could turn off the TV. I could turn off this. I could make dinner late. I could do all sorts of things, and I wouldn't withhold food. I'm just saying you could do all sorts of stuff. I hold all the cards, so I have all the leverage. I can do all sorts of things to get what I want, right? Trump has all the leverage. And he knows how to use it. Whereas the other people didn't know how to use their leverage. They didn't understand how to use their leverage. They had one thing that they could do, and that was it. And most of the time, that was making their own position weaker, right? And the reason for that is because they were globalist traitors, and they knew it. And what they were trying to do was destabilize and destroy the United States. And by extension, the West, because they can't destroy the West if the United States is a shining mountain on a hill, shining freedom on a hill type deal. If you can go to the United States and be free, and everywhere else in the world is a communist hellhole, well, you're going to go to the United States, and the United States is going to say, this represents a national security threat to us. Canada, you can't be a communist hellhole. And that's what's happening now too, by the way. So here's... Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful